Since moving house a few months ago, I've been public charging for a month using the granny charger, like I have the Leaf plugged in now, and it's been okay. But what I really wanted was a 7 kilowatt charge point, you know, a proper fast charger on the side of the house. Why? Because, well, they're a bit safer. They are faster, obviously, 3 times faster than the granny charger. And it means I can take advantage of all these smart tariffs for charging cheaply during the day, things like that. So it just made sense to get a charge point. But which one to get? Because there are so many models available. I went up to see my friend Nick.
Some people collect stamps or comic books. Nick seems to collect chargers.
He showed me a choice of 4 and I picked the Zappi. Partly because I love the Zappi. We had a Zappi in our previous house and I had 0 complaints about it. It's quite rare that I have 0 complaints about anything. Even our fridge bothers me at times. So it was kind of a no-brainer to get a Zappi in this house as well. If we look on the side of the house now, you'll see that I'm a proud owner of a Zappi. So how difficult is it to install? How much does it cost? Am I happy? Stay tuned and find out.
Okay, so firstly, why the Zappi? It's a big charger, and that means good cable storage, so the cable can wrap around it. The screen is quite retro, I think. It almost reminds me of an old iPod. I really like the app. It's really easy to use. This one is single phase, but it does also work on 3-phase using the same unit, so that's great. They have untethered or tethered options. I went for untethered because it means I can plug in the good old Leaf. It supports intelligent Octopus Go. That's a big, big thing. I saved so much money on that tariff when I had it in the previous house. Something we wanted to do in the previous house was charge with solar power, and that's something you can do with the Zappi. There's arguably not much point actually doing that when export rates are relatively high. So it actually makes more sense to export your solar generation than it is to put it in your car. However, that may change in the future. If it does, then it makes sense using this. Also, some people may be on a feed-in tariff, and if you're on a feed-in tariff like we were at the previous house, then actually it does make more sense to charge your car directly off solar. And also it's a British company, so, you know, I can get all patriotic. So we love the Zappi. It does everything we want, and I didn't really feel the need to try anything else. When it was installed at our old house in Canterbury, I used a company called EV Domestic, and I even got Mike from EV Domestic on camera, the poor bugger. They did such a good job that I got them out again this time. So here's what's involved with the installation. And this time it was Nick that came out to do the installation, who I also forced to go on camera.
I think that would be the natural place to put it, because obviously then whatever car is going to be parked there, or even possibly over there, then the cable will stretch. But my wife wants it tucked out of the way, which would either be there or up there, which seems a bit ridiculous, but she doesn't want to spoil the look of the front of the house. The other option would be putting it there, but then the cable run would be a bit difficult. Not too bad around there, but then it all gets a bit harder there, and then, yeah, God knows what we do. We would have to go across there and run across there, but that's not ideal, is it?
There's enough space. If we just take the hook out there,
Yeah.
for the key.
Okay,
Yeah,
but that makes sense.
That should fit there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
What we'll do is we'll run that into a external fuse board, which is going to have a surge protector and RCBO inside.
Does this cable have to be any different for single phase and 3-phase, or is it the same?
Yeah, so this is a single phase cable that we're fitting at the moment. It's just live neutral and earth, 6mm. But yeah, you would have to upgrade the cable when you change over to a 3-phase supply.
Okay.
But we're just setting this up as a single phase today.
Sure.
The first cable to go in, this is to supply the CT clamp.
Do you find the Zappi is easy to install?
Yeah, as chargers go, yeah, they're relatively easy because of the way the unit kind of opens up and you've got push fit. A lot of other chargers, they're like hard soldered components onto the internal board inside, but if something was to go wrong inside the Zappi, they're built a lot like a PC where you can actually take components off and replace them. It's so much easier. So say if an RCD failed or something, it's literally a chip that you'd take out and put a new one in. So yeah, you tend to never see a replacement of them units, to be honest.
Right, okay.
So this is a external rated consumer unit. Should protect against the elements.
So by installing this, you don't have to go into the consumer unit inside, right?
Yes, yeah. And with these ones as well, it means you can put it on the outside of the building as opposed to inside the meter cupboard as well. Because sometimes on these meter cupboards, you've still got space to get a consumer unit inside.
Yeah.
They're a little bit smaller than this, but then they don't have to be as IP rated as this.
How long does an install typically take?
I'd say typical install for something like this, where we're coming off the meter cupboard, is probably around 3 hours. But we normally allow 4 hours for a standard install.
Okay.
This bit's for the CT clamp.
And the CT clamp is the thing that tells it how much power is being used.
Yeah, so it monitors the consumption. So on chargers, what they need to do is monitor the amount of power being used by the house to ensure it doesn't exceed the main fuse. So your main fuse is 60 amps. The charger will be set to 60 amps or just below 60 amps to ensure that both the house and the car don't exceed 60. So if it was getting close, the charger will then drop the amount of power going to the car just to ensure it doesn't exceed that.
That's clever.
A couple of guys from UK Power Networks came and they've now upgraded this to 100 amp.
So it's already set to 60 amps. There's a limit there. This is where you connect the phone, and then you start to set up the Wi-Fi, and then it will look to update the firmware straight away. So what that's saying there is that the CT clamp that we've put on is measuring the grid.
Okay.
It's only got the 1 out of the 3. Then we go to readings, and we can see the power consumption in your house at the moment. So it's 2,700 watts at 11 amps.
Okay.
So this final test here is just to check that the RCBO is behaving as it should, and yes, it's tripped the charger. As you can probably see now from the wiring, so you've got the supply coming in here, that goes into your meter, from the meter into the main switch, and then this is split into the blocks here, so you're supplying your 2 consumer units inside and the new one here. It's also split the earth that's coming in as well, so we've got our earth supply, and then the extra cable coming out of inside here, which is where I've done the connection, is for that CT clamp.
Both times they've been on time, friendly, clean, and they did a great job. And I'd use them again if we move again. Please God, I hope we don't move again. Right, so cost. The Zappi's RRP is £779. Installation with EV Domestic was £469, including VAT, so £1,248 altogether. But to be completely upfront, myenergi gifted me the Zappi, and EV Domestic said that they would do the installation for free because they got a few customers based on my previous video. So I'm enormously grateful to both of them for those freebies. But even if I didn't have all of this for free, I still would have gone for the same charger and the same company because they've both been great. So I suppose the big question is, does it add value to the house by having a charge point installed? I don't have any stats, but in my experience, I did many of the viewings myself for the last 2 houses that we sold. And each time I had people ask me whether the charge point would stay. So whether that means that value is added, I don't know, but they would probably try to reduce the price if I remove the charger, I imagine. So as time goes on, I think it's going to be something that more and more people are going to expect from a house. We all know that having an EV charger installed is a fairly big financial commitment. Obviously over time it should gradually pay for itself with the savings you make in cheaper EV running costs, but what if I told you there was a way you could make some extra income straight away by renting it out to other EV drivers? Well, that's precisely what you can do with Joosup, the sponsors of today's video. Joosup is an EV charger sharing app that allows you to list your charge point and take bookings at days and times you set when it normally sits unused. And unlike other platforms, Joosup takes 0 commissions from hosts, so you can list your charger at prices comparatively lower than public charge point operators while still making a good profit. Joosup's mission is to provide bookable, affordable and reliable EV charging nationwide, especially in places where public infrastructure may be lacking. So by listing your charger, you're helping increase the public infrastructure, making the switch to electric even better. Joosup is available for iPhone and Android, and by using the promo code MrEV, you can enjoy 180 days of free use. So give Joosup a try today and see how much you could earn. Visit joosup.com for more information, or go to the Google Play or App Stores to download the app now. Here's the Zappi's display. It's very clear. You can see that there's a sun icon there. If this was linked up to solar, if we had any solar, then it would show how much solar is generating and going to the house. You can see at the moment that we're drawing 1.9 kilowatts from the grid. EV disconnected, obviously, because the EV is not plugged in. The Eco Plus mode is currently selected, but you can change that using these buttons here. This button here is for the menu. You probably shouldn't need to use this menu very much. It's something that installers will use more than anyone, but what you might want to do is set a PIN code in here to stop people from using your charger unauthorized. And you might also want to use it to change the amps. So we had our house fuse upgraded to 100 amps and I had to change it in here. It's all very retro, but you know, it does all work well. And I do like having physical buttons and an actual screen on the device. So this is the myenergi app, and I find it's really easy to use. Up here you can see the house, not looking very happy, this house, because it's currently taking 3.2 kilowatts directly from the grid. And this little leaf icon here shows 0%. That's because we're not very eco, because we're not generating anything ourselves. If we get solar panels, then a little bubble here will appear with what we're generating from solar. And then if the house is using everything the solar is generating, then that will go to 100%. But as it is, we're 0% in this house. Down here we've got the icon for the Zappi, so if I click that, you can see the different charging modes up here. So we've got Fast, Eco and Eco Plus. So I'm just going to change it to Fast. There is a little bit of a delay while it talks to the Zappi. And by the way, everything you can do in the app, I think you can do on the Zappi itself. It seems pretty good. So if you don't like apps, you can do it directly on the charger. Okay, so the fast mode will charge the car at the full speed as soon as you plug in. There is a randomized delay which you can override by pressing the plus button. Eco mode. Eco tries to use any surplus local generation you have to charge your EV down to a minimum of 1.4 kilowatts. It'll take power from the grid if it needs to maintain at least 1.4 kilowatts, so it keeps charging even if you aren't generating any solar, albeit very slowly. We don't have any solar here, so pointless for us anyway. If I go to Eco Plus is like Eco, but it'll start and stop continually. So it'll only charge the car if you have enough solar, so at least 1.4 kilowatts. You can see this working from this video I shot in the previous house. I was generating 1.5 kilowatts from the solar panels, and it was putting in what it could into the car, but as the house demanded more from the grid, a countdown starts. If a big cloud comes along and solar drops, or if the house usage increases too much, then it will stop charging when the countdown ends. And there's a countdown like this to avoid too much abrupt stopping and starting, as that wouldn't be great for the Zappi's internals or the car for that matter. If you have a timing schedule set in the car, that will override the Zappi and you'll get a waiting message on the Zappi when you plug in. If you want the Zappi to handle this schedule, you can do that easily in the app, which I'll show you in a minute. If you do have a schedule set in the Zappi app, you'll need to leave it in Eco or Eco Plus mode for it to work, otherwise it will charge immediately if it's on fast mode. In the centre of the app, you'll see a leaf icon that tells you how green your house consumption is. If you set this minimum green level to 100%, that means it will only charge the minimum 1.4 kilowatts if you have 100% of that available as surplus energy. Change the level to a lower amount and it'll take what it needs from the grid to get that minimum 1.4 kilowatts. So down here we've got boost settings. Again, this is just Eco and Eco Plus this applies to. Manual is to start charging the car at maximum speed, like fast mode, until it's charged to a set amount of kilowatt hours. There's no way of the Zappi to know your EV's state of charge, so there's some guesswork involved. So it helps to know how many kilowatt hours your battery is. For instance, my e-Nero is 64 kilowatt hours, so I could put this up to like 60 kilowatt hours and then press boost now, and then it will start charging the car immediately. Smart Boost allows you to set a time you want your EV to be charged. And like manual, the amount of kilowatt hours you want to put into the battery. So it will prioritize solar as much as possible, but then it will make sure it tops up from the grid as much as required. So it's all ready by the time you have set. So for instance, I've got 5 kilowatt hours by 5 p.m. And scheduled enables you to add the times of your off-peak tariff. So I tend to leave it in Eco Plus most of the time on scheduled. So if I click here, you'll see that actually this is incorrect because I've just changed to Intelligent Octopus Go tariff, which starts at 11:30 and it goes on for 6 hours, and that's every day. So I'm going to set that now. But if you do have a smart tariff like Intelligent Octopus Go, that will automatically override the schedule if you have one set, so it boosts during the day if needed. And you can change these boost settings on the Zappi itself, but I find it much easier to do it in this app. And there it is, all done. And you've also got charge history down here as well if you want to see how much you've been charging. And you've got more graphs if you want to see your consumption history, which is horrific for this house. 441.6 kilowatt hours in the last week. My God. So there it is, there's the app. So now I have the Zappi installed, I can go on to the Intelligent Octopus Go tariff. So just to talk about the two tariffs, Octopus Go, that's what we're on at the moment. The night rate is 8.5 pence per kilowatt hour, that's for 5 hours. Peak rate is 27.16 pence per kilowatt hour. Intelligent Octopus Go, the night rate is 7 pence per kilowatt hour, and it's for an extra hour, so it starts at 11:30 instead of midnight. Peak rate is the same cost, so it means you get 1 extra hour of cheap rate, and the cheap rate is cheaper. But it's even more special than that, because on windy days when there's plenty of renewables on the grid and the grid's desperate to offload it, you can find yourself charging during the day and you can get those same off-peak rates. And when that happens, it's very special because your whole house gets cheap electricity with Intelligent Octopus Go, not just the car. I did a whole video about that, so do watch that. And it does feel a little bit like cheating, but anyway. That's the way it works. So doing all this saved us a lot of money on our bills. From the example on the video that we did, it was about £50 saved on 1 month. So Intelligent Octopus Go is a tariff that works either through the EV or the charger. Unfortunately, the Kia e-Niro is not supported, so you need to have a charger like the Zappi. Others do it as well, but a charger like the Zappi is essential for getting Intelligent Octopus Go. So if you go onto the Octopus website, it'll tell you whether you can do it with your EV or with your charger. So, as I said, I used to have a Zappi in the old house. What's changed in this one since the last time I had a Zappi? There's actually a few things that have changed, but they're all related to the Electric Vehicles Smart Charge Point Regulations 2021 that have come along to help avoid issues, potential issues with the grid. And this applies to all charge points, not just the Zappi. So firstly, as default, it's set to charge off-peak just during the night, which makes sense. That's fine. You can change it, but it makes sense for that to be the default. Secondly, we now have something called DRS. Just to be clear, there's plenty of electricity to go around, and the National Grid have repeatedly said there is no issue with everyone driving EVs. In fact, they want everyone to drive EVs because it helps balance the grid. And if you want to know more about balancing the grid, I've put a link in the description to a fantastic video from Dr. Ewan McTurk, who goes into all the detail about why we don't have to worry about the grid overloading and things like that. So there is the possibility of power cuts if everyone were to plug in at the same time. As a nation, we have power spikes all the time. For instance, when people watch a soap opera and there's an advert break, a lot of people get up and they make a cup of tea or something. And when they do that, there's a big spike because everyone's kettles goes on at the same time. But the National Grid know about this, and it's something they can plan for. They can plan to make sure that there's enough power around when there's these demand spikes. But what about EV charging? So most of the time, people will start charging an EV when it's off-peak. That just makes sense to do it at off-peak rates. But it's still difficult to predict how many people might plug in at the same time. So that's where DRS comes in. DRS stands for Demand Response Service. What it means in practice is they add a delay up to 10 minutes at the start and stop of every charge session. So it could mean you end up losing 10 minutes of cheap rate at the beginning, and you could end up paying peak rate for the last 10 minutes. The other thing that might happen, although I don't think it ever has, is that your EV may pause charging or reduce the charging speed if there is a risk of blackout. To be honest, I think it's good that we've got a system in place to avoid that happening, but I appreciate it'll be giving some of you alarm bells as you're watching this. Demand Side Response Services, DSRS, is the other side of this. So let's say that there's excess wind during the day, and energy companies are desperate for us to use it, since it actually costs money to turn off wind turbines. In fact, we waste a fortune in this country doing that. It's called curtailment. Look it up. So energy companies want us to put that energy into our EVs. So if your EV is plugged in and you're on a smart tariff, then it may start charging during the day. If so, there's no delay in that case, because the object is obviously to use electricity as soon as possible. So that's the other side of it. Anyway, before you start panicking, this is something you can opt into. It's not forced on you. It's something that you go through in the setup of the Zappi right at the beginning. Now, personally, I've opted into it because it helps support the grid, and I just think that makes sense. There's a really good article about all of this on the myenergi website, so I've put a link in the description. Do read it. Other than that, not much has changed actually with this Zappi. The only other big thing is that this now supports 3-phase out of the box. It's a standard thing. You don't have to pay more for a different unit or anything. It's all built into this. It's just something they can change when they're doing the installation. So, am I happy? It works brilliantly, I think. I like the app. I like the way it looks. Not everyone does, but I like the way it looks. And I'm just very, very happy with it. So let me know in the comments if you've got a Zappi and you like it, or if you do granny charging and you don't feel the need to get a charge point, or if you've got another charge point. It's really useful to have your recommendations. When people watch these videos, I know they read through the comments, and if you've had an issue with the Zappi, or if you've had an issue with another charge point or whatever, then that's all really, really useful information. So add your comments, please. And I think that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos. And I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.